unfortunately, I had been in India for some time, and I had been taking care of myself, but at the end in Jaipur, I stopped drinking my sugarcane juice. I would drink sugarcane juice all the time, and my blood sugar went down, I think, and I got hepatitis as soon as I arrived in Nairobi. So there I was, my shining hour, you know, to be the secretary, the Sanskrit man, the cook, the masseuse, everything. And I'm laying on my back. I'm useless. The Prabhupada came into my room, and I'm laying there, and I'm trying to struggle to get out of the bed to pay my businesses. And the Prabhupada said, no, just stay there. You know, and I'm saying, Prabhupada, I feel so bad. I'm supposed to do all these things for you, and I can't do it. And he says, that's okay. You know, we can manage. You just get your health back. So his compassion was there at every step, too.
One time I wrote to Prabhupada while we were on the way to Mayapur with his bullock carts and kirtan, giving some hints that we needed some financial help to maintain this program, and Prabhupada wrote to me, and he sent a big Sankirtan score, how the big quantity books are being distributed, and he said, this is how we are maintaining our institution, by book distribution, and you also have to do. And he said outside help is not healthy, and he said if your program is being appreciated by the public, their appreciation has to be practical. That means let them help you, let them assist you, otherwise just a lip service. To that effect, he wrote us in letter and encouraged us to increase book distribution also with the bullock carts and kirtan.
At the end of one Rath Yatra festival, I remember Prabhupada was getting back in his car, you know, and he was putting his feet in the car, so the door was open, and I knelt down, and I held my hands like that to Srila Prabhupada, and I said, Prabhupada, is everything all right? And Prabhupada took his arm, and he put his arm around my head like that, and put his head right on my lap, and held my head with his hand like that, and he says, everything was first class. And that was probably the most affectionate embrace I've received in my life.
Your head was in his lap?
On his lap. He was sitting in the car like that, and I was kneeling beside the car with the door open, and I had my hands like this. And I said, Prabhupada, is everything all right? Was everything good? And he took my head, and he put his arm around my back like that, and put my head right on his lap like that, held his arm on top of my head like that, and said, everything was first class.
Of course, Bombay, there were two kinds of cars, basically, that I can remember seeing. One was, I guess it was some old Plymouth blueprints they had, and they produced all these particular cars. I don't remember what they called it. And then there was the Ambassador. So everyone either had this Ambassador or this Plymouth-looking car. And we had gone on a morning walk, and we had one of these Plymouth-looking cars. And it was with myself and Pradyumna and Shyamasundar. And Shyamasundar was driving, and we parked the car, and we got out, and then we were walking along. We had a very nice walk, and some 1 hour and a half later, we walked back to the car, and Shyamasundar's trying to get into the car. The doors were unlocked, so we're in, and he's trying to stick the key in the ignition, and this is going on for a few minutes, and he says, the key is not working, And Prabhupada said, so what is wrong? He said, I don't know, I can't get the key to work in the car. So we're sitting there for about 5 minutes, and all of a sudden, two Indian men come up to the car. Now they begin talking to Srila Prabhupada in Hindi, and talking back and forth, and everything is very friendly. And Prabhupada said, oh, he said, this is not our car. He said, this is their car. And in the meantime, during the conversation, they say, you know, Swamiji, we will take you to where you're going. And so myself and Srila Prabhupada, we remain in the back seat, and the two gentlemen, they get into the front seat of the car. And he said, so they will take us, he said, to our place. And Shyamasundar and Pradyumna, they went in the other car. So at this point now, after sitting in their car, the men, they decide that they want to take Srila Prabhupada to his quarters. They don't want it to go, for him to go in his car, so they've convinced him now that they want to do this service because he's a Swami, that we want to take you home. And so we're sitting back there, and Prabhupada said, see, he said, this is the difference, he said. In your country, he said, if we would have been sitting in someone's car, he said, immediately they would have arrested us. He said, but here, you sit in their car and they take you home. He said, they want to take you home.
This social worker came to see Srila Prabhupada. And he was an old gentleman, but very, very meticulous. He had a very, well-tailored suit on, starched shirt, nice silk tie, spotlessly shined shoes, starched, cuff-linked shirt. Everything was just proper. Hair comb, glasses. He was an old gentleman. But Prabhupada started to talk about sex life. How if a person just wants sex life, then he's like a dog. And this gentleman was saying, well, I like sex life, And Prabhupada said, well, this is a doggish mentality, to just want sex life all the time. Does that mean that you're a dog? And he said, I guess so. That's what I like. So the conversation went on like that. So at the end, the gentleman was soundly defeated by Srila Prabhupada, but he didn't feel bad. So Prabhupada said to him, prasadam, bring prasadam. So the gentleman said, oh, no, I'm really not eating anything now. He said, no. He says, you must take prasadam. Because Prabhupada knew that this philosophy, although it was defeating him, it really didn't do too much. He said that the prasadam, he had to take the prasadam. This was the thing that was really going to be able to make this man have a little spiritual advancement in life. Because as far as accepting the philosophy, he had just willfully accepted the fact that he was a dog because he liked sex life. So to philosophically accept this teaching was not going to happen. So Prabhupada was insistent that he take the prasadam. So the devotee brings in a gulab. Now gulab, as we know, is a big, juicy sweet full of sweet ball juice. So the man says, the devotee plopped the gulab in his hand. So it's, if these gulabs were particularly big. They were very big gulabs, and they were soaking in this sugar water for a long time. So the gulab was sitting in his hand, and it was like a sponge. It was like a big sponge. So the gulab, he was talking to Prabhupada, making the final, I'm teaching here, and how long are you going to be here? And maybe we can see each other again. And this, and he had kind of developed a nice, friendly relationship with Prabhupada. They were having their closing remarks, but at the same time, he's kind of trying to balance this gulab in his hand, so it doesn't drip on him. So the gulab starts to. The juice from the gulab starts to run down between his fingers. So he's trying to tilt his hand up while talking to Prabhupada at the same time, so the gulab juice doesn't run down his fingers. But now it starts to run down his wrist, and over his starched shirt sleeve, kind of dripping from the cufflink. So he's kind of holding it like this, doing this balancing act. He doesn't know what to do with this gulab, and Prabhupada says to him, "Eat it." Now he's got this gulab, and Prabhupada's saying to eat it, and he's, well, no, I don't want to eat it. I can take it with me. No. Prabhupada said, no. You must eat it now. So the man, he doesn't quite know what to do. So he thinks, well, I'll just take a little bite of this gulab, and it'll be all right. It'll satisfy Prabhupada. So he takes a little bite of this gulab, so it ruptures the gulab, and now all the deluge of sweet ball juice is running out of the gulab. It's running down it's on his tie, and now it's dripping on his shoes, his patent leather shoes, and he's now it's all over the place. So Prabhupada said, no, eat it all. So by this time he doesn't care. He's just totally covered with gulab. So he throws it in his mouth. Now he's got this big gulab in his mouth. And the sweet ball juice starts to run down his face. So his hand is full of gulab juice, sugar juice, his cufflinks, his tie, his pants, is dripped on his shoes, and it's coming down his face. But he finishes the gulab, and he smiles. He said, "That's very good." And Prabhupada said, "Yes." And he said, you know, I'd like to have another one of those. And Prabhupada said, oh, very well. And he says, I think it will go good in my rum. Prabhupada said, wait a second, this is not to put in your rum. This is to eat. This is prasadam. This is food offered to the Lord. He says, no, it tastes sweet. It would go good in my rum. I drink rum every night. I'll just put this gulab in my rum. So Prabhupada calls for another gulab, and he gives it to the gentleman, and the gentleman gets up, and he says, thank you very much, Prabhupada, and it was nice meeting you and everything like that. So he's walking out the door, and Prabhupada said, now don't put that in your rum. And the gentleman said, all right, I'll just eat it. He went out smiling, but all this gulab juice dripped all over him. So it was actually a very hilarious, because I was there, and people who were there couldn't believe what was going on.